Alright, so hey guys, it is me, 80s Towards you guys. Today, guys, we talk to you guys about AFC World Cup qualifiers. Now, obviously, guys, before we get into the qualifiers, I do want to share with you guys some attention here, and that I want you guys to subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, as well as make sure you guys like and comment on this video. I do appreciate that. It helps me view the feedback that I get in the video, and as well as it also helps share the video out to other people as well, so other people can see the video and other people can enjoy the video, as far as new people as well. And make sure you guys turn the notification on so whenever I go live, you guys will get notified immediately, and whenever I upload as well, you guys will get notified immediately. So really appreciate if you could do any of those four or all four of those, just any way you can, guys. I really do appreciate the support. So now let's go ahead and get started with the qualifiers. So now, because there's 12 nations here, guys, I believe we can go ahead and discuss about every single nation here of the groups. Obviously, I won't be able to go too extensive on like I won't be able to go super extensive because we have 12 nations to discuss. We'll be here all day. So I'll give my brief, concise thoughts about each nation and whether I think they still have a chance to qualify or whether their hopes are doom and gloom. Okay, and obviously, guys, I don't have any remember, guys, I am objective. Remember, guys, I'm a U.S. men's national team primarily, and so there none of these nations I'm even I have nothing against. And just so you guys know, my nation, where my parents are from, and where my family originates from, Bangladesh, and they didn't even make it to this. They didn't even make it to this phase. I think they got to last in the group with the Qatar group. So, I mean, I have nothing against these nations. So I just want to see the best and the best qualify. So let's start with Group A, guys. So Group A is probably more traditional. I think most of us expected this group to pan out like this way, at least the top two, maybe third to sixth is where things get interesting. And let's start with sixth place. I'm going to go chronological from bottom to top. Let's start with Group A, guys. And this bottom of the group we have is Syria. Syria. It's been rough, man, for Syria. I feel really bad for Syria, man. They have done relatively well in this group. Even though they are last in this group, I don't think they have been as bad as their position suggests them to be. Now, have they been underwhelming? Yes, to some extent. You can't say that. But I just think this was always going to be difficult. It was always going to be difficult for them to do this, and I just think that the odds were against them. Odds were against them significantly. And as you can see right, guys, I'm going to be using the Wikipedia page. I feel like it's a lot more convenient for this stuff, guys. So, yeah, as you can see, it's really quite interesting there. So you can see their Syria's best player has been the Kaban and Al Sama. So, it's going to be rough for Syria. It's going to be rough for Syria. And I knew that they weren't going to directly qualify. I knew that was going to happen. I did hope, though, they would maybe at least challenge for that third spot, but I just think that might be a bit too difficult for them. And they're still in this, though. They're still in this because, as I said, they still have around like I believe it's 10 matches, right? So you got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, you have like 10 matches, and they're still not out of this yet, but they're gonna have to really get those home wins, because I think for Syria the key for them to qualify for the World Cup, or at least have some chance, is to win those home games. Because if they fail to win those home games, then there is no way they're gonna qualify. There's absolutely no way, because right now they need the points. They need all the wins they can get, and I think that's gonna be very important for them to secure. And I think the defense for me has been one of the most disappointing parts. You look at every other nation's group. Every other nation has their goal difference is relatively around the same, and they're the only ones. Well, I guess you could say Iraq as well. Their goal difference has been pretty poor. So as you can see, guys, it's been rough for them. But at least they made it to the stage, man. And you got to give them props, man. It's going to be rough for them. And yeah, I hope Syria can do this, man. I hope Syria can do this. I do have a friend that is from Syria, so he could probably. I think he's a bit disappointed, and so as I said, it's gonna be rough for them. It's gonna be rough. Moving on, fifth place, guys. It is Iraq. Iraq for me, I'm not really surprised in how they've been doing. I think I kind of more or less expected this. Now I forgot exactly where I placed them. I believe I probably put them at fourth. I believe I predicted. I think so. They're roughly around doing where I expected them. I think the draws they've had has been pretty good. They're picking up points whenever they can. They've got a 0-0 draw against South Korea on the road, which is pretty impressive. And obviously they followed it up with a 3-0 loss to Iran, which is pretty bad considering they're at home. And then they played against they played against Lebanon, and they drew at home. And then they drew against United Arab Emirates on the road, which is a really good result for them on the road as well. So, as for Iraq, very similar to what I said for Syria here, they have to pick up those wins at home. That's going to be the key for them, and they have to pick up as many wins as they can to have some hope on getting that the third spot because I think that's probably the best. That's their ceiling, I would say. You know, and so yeah, very very interesting indeed. Obviously, you look at Iraq's goal scorer, whoever scored goal for them, it's actually been Al Atis and Hussan. These are gonna be two players will be very critical for them, and yeah, they scored two important goals for them as well as let's see, someone else, yeah, Al Bahir as well. So, it's gonna be interesting how they do. And then fourth place in the group is United Arab Emirates. This is the team that I've been most disappointed with in this group. This is the team that I have had my highest expectations for in this group to maybe somehow qualify and to get that third spot, and they have been disappointing. Now, to be fair, it is still early, and they're still only 2 points off of that third place spot. But as of right now, they are not looking that great. And I think the problem for United Arab Emirates has been they just need to convert those wins, man. I mean, you look at the game they had at opening match day. They had a 0-0 game against Lebanon at home. That's pretty disappointing. And then they drew away to Syria in a game in which they were leading. Then you look at this one right here. They lost to Iran at home. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's going to always be difficult against Iran. Then they had to salvage a draw against Iraq after being literally 1-0 up. This is the problem with the United Arab Emirates. When they score, they allow the opposition to get back in the game. That is a huge problem for them. They have to stop doing that. They cannot afford to give up leads. That has been something that's been United Arab Emirates undoing here. And if they keep doing this, they ain't going to sniff that third place spot. They ain't going to sniff it. Okay? And right now, I think they are fortunate to be fourth right now. They are fortunate to be fourth because, man, oh man, this is unacceptable. You cannot be giving up leads like this, especially against in nations like Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, because these are nations who are going to be challenging for that third spot. Because I can understand them not getting good results against Iran and South Korea, but it's another thing to not get the results against Iraq and Syria. You know what I'm saying? So for me, they have to start picking up those wins because for me right now, United Emirates, they really shouldn't be at fourth place in my opinion. They really should be at least third in my opinion, and it's been very disappointing for them. And I've been disappointed. Makabut, he's been one of their best players, and it's going to be really interesting to see how United Emirates do from there. Will they rebound and maybe get that third place spot? Who knows? And the third in this group has probably been one of the most surprising ones. It is Lebanon. Lebanon have been really interesting, guys. I've actually been really impressed with what Lebanon is doing. Got a 0-0 draw on the road against United Arab Emirates, which is a great result for them. This is the nation that I actually predicted come last, and they've actually done really well. Really, really well indeed. They have exceeded my expectations. This is a nation that I really didn't think. I really thought they were pretty fortunate to come out of the group, and man, oh man, they proved me wrong massively. They got lost to South Korea 1-0 on the road, which is actually pretty decent, actually. And then they played against Iraq, that it's a 0-0 draw away. And then they got a big away win against Syria on the road. So it's interesting that they haven't played any of their matches at home yet, and that their next couple of games are going to be at home. So for Lebanon here, guys, they might be able to get that third, because you look at this right now. They have Iran coming up, and then they have United Arab Emirates coming up, and then they have South Korea. So you could see a lot of their games are home. Only until the final match day they play away. So that's going to be really interesting for Lebanon here, that they've almost played all their away games with the exception of the final one. And they're looking really good, guys. Keep an eye upon them. They could maybe get that third place spot. Do I think they'll get that top two? No. I think that's a bit too high for them. But I do think third is very doable. And considering how well they have been doing and prove me wrong, I will give them a ton of credit. So we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, guys, I think it's going to be really interesting to see whether they do it or not. Do I still think they'll get third? Possibly. I think they're going to at least get fourth with how this group is panning out. And let me just tell you guys my original predictions. I believe I had South Korea top, Iran second, and I believe I had third, United Emirates fourth. I believe I had Iraq, and I think fifth I had Syria, and sixth I had Lebanon. So Lebanon, man, keep an eye upon them, because this is a nation that I think is really exceeding expectations, and they're really looking solid. They're really looking solid indeed. Moving on, second we have, it is South Korea, man. South Korea, man, as we'd expect, they have done really, really well in this. They have done really well, picking up a win against Lebanon, picking up a win against Syria, Now, they did drew away to Iran on the road, which is a bit somewhat unfortunate because they were leading. But I think that game against Lebanon at home, they really... I'm not Lebanon, sorry. Iraq at home, they really should have won this match, to be honest with you. They were playing at home. But honestly, I think South Korea is fine. I think South Korea will directly qualify. It's just a matter of which position they'll be first or second. I personally still think they'll finish first. But Iran is looking good. South Korea, obviously, you guys, Heung-min Son, who's been one of their best players, You also have some other great players that come to mind, Let me see who else. Let's just look at this briefly. Um, yeah, top goal scorers. Actually, let's look at this. Um, then you obviously have this is their squad for their upcoming games. So remember, you got Son, obviously, Lee Jae Son, Jo Hung Yan, Hong Gi Chan, pretty good player. It's a good team, guys. It's a really good team, guys, and I think this team is really capable of doing something special. So we'll see what they do, man. We'll see what they do. I still think they'll top it, but it's gonna be interesting. Moving on, first place we have is Iran, guys. Iran. What a team this is, man. Iran, they're top of the qualifiers, which is really impressive. They haven't even lost a game. Them and South Korea are the only two nations that haven't lost a match, and that's incredible. They picked up 3 wins, 1 draw. They drew against South Korea at home, and a game in which they were trailing. And obviously, you got Jack Hanabashi. I'm probably butchering his name wrong, but he's a very good player. Plays for Feyenoord, as you can see, very good player. And then obviously you have Taremi, who's a really good player. Got the winner against was a United Emirates away from home. Plays for Porto. Got a big 3-0 win against Iraq. They're looking solid, man. They're looking really good indeed. They have been really amazing, and I think they're gonna. I think they might actually. They might actually go unbeaten, guys. They might actually go unbeaten because they have looked really good. So as you can see, Iran, South Korea has their shoulders above the rest. The rest of the nations are battling now for that third place spot, which I kind of expected. Ultimately, I'm not really surprised in how. I'm not really surprised how group this. I think this group is kind of going as expected. Now, moving on to Group B, guys, because Group B is where things get very interesting indeed. Very interesting indeed, and that is, wow. This group is pretty competitive, I would say. Pretty darn competitive, I would say. And I think this group is way more competitive than Group A, which I actually thought Group A would be more competitive than this group. I actually expected that, but it's actually turning out to be the reverse. Okay, so Vietnam, man. Vietnam, they have been the worst nation in the group. Now, despite the fact they have been the worst nation, they still have been somewhat decent. They still scored 4 goals. They still scored 4 goals, which is pretty commendable to them. And obviously it was a pretty impressive achievement to, I believe, get ahead of China in the group. I think they got the top spot in the group ahead of China, which is pretty remarkable to say. And you look at the results they've had so far. Obviously, they opened the scoring against Saudi Arabia, but they gave up the lead. No Goen Kwang Hee gave them the goal. He plays for Hanoi. Then obviously they lost to Australia at home, which is pretty devastating. And then they lost to China in that thriller in which China just about won right last minute of the game, last second of stoppage time, and then they lost to Oman. So, yeah, Vietnam, man, I'm surprised in how poor they have been doing. I expected them to at least get 5th. I was expecting them to get 5th, but it's going to be rough for Vietnam, man. It's going to be really rough for them, and I'm disappointed. Hopefully they can get some points. I think it's going to be really bad for them. And I think that game against China, they really were unlucky to have lost that match. And I think if they had maybe picked up a point, they would be somewhat in contention. But I think it's going to be really rough. Moving on to China. China have been pretty interesting. Obviously, they lost to Australia, which we kind of expected. Then they lost to Japan. Then they won against Vietnam, a big home win against Vietnam. Then they followed it up with a loss to Saudi Arabia on the road. And so, yeah, I think for China, man, it's more or less the same. I think China, there's going to be difficult for them. I just think it's gonna be difficult. I really don't think China have what it takes. Now there is one player that I really do like, that is Wu Li. He's a very good player, plays for Espanyol. He did score the equalizer against Barcelona in the Catalan derby, I believe. As we're going to play Espanyol soon, so yeah, he's a good player, and I would keep an eye upon him. Very talented indeed. Then you got Wu Zi as well, Alcio. So I think for China, it's just gonna be. I just think that their ceiling is about 3rd, and I think 3rd is very interesting. Now 4th in the group is very interesting, guys. I'm even very surprised. It is Japan. I repeat, Japan is 4th. That is a huge surprise. I am very surprised in how Japan have been doing. I expected Japan to do a lot better than this, and they have been one of the more underwhelming nations of the qualifiers. This begs me the question. Will Japan miss the 2022 World Cup? I know it's a bit too early. I know we're only 4 games in. But we still have 6 more games to go. And Japan, they're already 3 points away and 6 points away. Could Japan actually miss out? Because you look at the 2018 World Cup. You look at every continent. You had major absentees. CONCACAF, obviously you had USA. That was a major blow there. CONMEBOL, you had Chile. Okay, UEFA, yeah, Netherlands, Italy. Then Africa, you had Ghana, Algeria. These were probably the two biggest surprises. Asia, we didn't really have any surprises in Asia. Asia, all the nations that we expected to qualify did qualify in the end. And I just think that for Japan, this is a huge, huge shock. You know, and they lost on the opening match day to Oman at home. Late goal in the end, and Oman played really well. Oman played extraordinary, guys. I was surprised at how Oman played. Then they won against China on the road, a big away win, but only by a goal margin. Then they followed up, but they lost to Saudi Arabia on the road, and then they followed up with a big win against Australia at home. So for Japan, man, it's gonna be really interesting because they have their next game against Vietnam, which they need to win. Then they have to play against Oman, which they need to get revenge. Then they have China next, and then Saudi Arabia, and they need to get revenge in Australia. So for Japan, man, we could see them miss out. Now, do I think they'll miss it, guys? I personally think Japan will still do it. I think Japan will at least get third. They'll get to the playoffs. But for Japan, man, they have to start picking up those wins because I think the problem in Japan is that they haven't scored enough goals. That's really been the issue for me, and I just think that you have the likes of Kamada, you have the likes of let's see who else. I'm trying to think of some other names that come to my mind. Minamino. Let's see who else comes to mind. Then Kazuichi. Oh, sorry, not Kazuichi. Yeah, Kazuichi, right? Yeah, Kazuichi. Let me look at the current squad real quick. Yeah, then you have Minamino. Then you have Yudi, Osako. Asano. It's a good team, guys. It's a good team, and I'm a bit surprised. Tomiyasu plays for Arsenal, a pretty good player. Yoshidi, it's going to be rough, guys. It's going to be really rough for Japan here, and that they need to start picking up these wins because, as I said before, guys, if Japan misses out in the World Cup, that will be very devastating. I'll be devastated, guys. I'm not even a Japanese fan, and that's still going to be devastating because I think for me, guys, Japan is the best nation in AFC right now. I know people will say Qatar and all, but I haven't really been impressed with Qatar, if I'm being honest with you. I haven't really been that impressed. They have looked, ever since that Asian Cup victory, they haven't really looked the same. Got out of the group stage of the Copa America, went to the Gold Cup semifinals, in which they should have beaten the USA, and then they haven't really looked to get in Europe. I mean, I saw they even drew it against Ireland. They even lost to Serbia, Luxembourg, right? And I know these nations aren't that great. I know these nations are European, but still. These are nations that are probably not going to even make these nations aren't going to even make the World Cup, and yet they're still losing or drawing. I know it's friendlies and all, but it's still concerning, guys. And I just think that for me, for Japan, man, it's going to be devastating. I want them to qualify, man. I really want them to qualify because I think they are the best nation from Japan. Best nation from AFC, that is. And it's going to be really interesting because, as I said before, guys, Japan, they got to do this, man. They got to do this. So will they do it? Time will only tell. But I still think they'll be able to get third, guys, as crazy as things are. But they have to start picking up those wins. And they need to hope that Saudi Arabia and Australia draws points because they're looking so much superior to them. Anyways, Oman is third. Oman's probably been the big shock of this group. I think Oman has definitely exceeded people's expectations. I certainly didn't expect Oman to do this well. I expected Oman to actually finish bottom, I believe. And yep, they're doing really well. I mean, they got a big away win against Japan. They followed up with the loss to Saudi Arabia at home. Then they got a loss to Australia. Then they followed up with a 3-1 win against Vietnam. That's a big win against Vietnam there after conceding there. And they made a big comeback. That's a huge, big win for them. And for Oman in particular, man, this could be a nation that could surprise many of us. And we look at the goal scores. They've had Al Sahabi. It's been pretty good. Then you obviously have, our IV, Aloui. So, it's going to be interesting what happens, guys. I think this Oman team will do a lot better than we expected in them, and I think they're at least going to get fourth. I think they'll at least get fourth. I think Japan and Oman will switch. And then moving on to Group B, and then moving on to second place, guys, Australia. Australia, guys, we kind of expected them to do well. I expected them to actually get second in this thing, and they're doing really well, guys. Got to scoring all the goals. The only downside is they lost to Japan at home, or actually on the road, in which they actually should have at least picked up a draw because Japan scored an own goal towards right at the end. So, for Australia, man, it's gonna be business as usual. Boyle. Then you obviously have Duque. Then you have maybe it's a good team, guys. It's a good team, and obviously, I think this Australia team is looking very solid. Let's look at some of the current squad real quick, just to give you guys some reference here. Obviously, you have Herstridge. He was in my Eintracht Frankfurt series, which is interesting. You have Mably, Licky. I know Licky's actually their top goal scorer, which is interesting. The Duque, Boyle. Matthew Ryan as well plays for Real Sociedad. And then Grant, I could go on and on. The list goes on and on. It's a good team, guys. It's a good team. First, Saudi Arabia, man. Saudi Arabia. I disrespected Saudi Arabia a lot in my preview. I said that they would get third, and I didn't even think they would even reach the final round. They would even represent Asia in the playoffs, and they've done amazing, guys. They picked up a big win against Vietnam after conceding there. Then they followed up with a big win. They got a big away win against Oman. Then they got one against Japan. They won against China. They are the only nation that's gone perfect. This is the only nation that's not dropped points in Asia. We got to give them a round of applause here. And this Saudi Arabia team is looking good, man. This Saudi Arabia team is looking really solid. I'm really, really impressed with the players they have. Aldo Asiri, Al-Shirani, Al-Shiri, It's a good team, guys. It's a good team. Could Saudi Arabia actually go perfect in this group? I personally think, probably not. But they do. But it would be interesting because, as I said, they have a big game against Australia on the road. So let's just see how they do. So as you can see right here, guys, I think Saudi Arabia, man, they could be the surprise. They could honestly qualify directly. I was pretty skeptical on their chances before the World Cup, before this qualification, and well, they've blown me away. So that's it for today, guys. Did a quick roundup on every nation in the World Cup qualifiers for Asia, guys. I want you guys to comment down below. Will we see any shocks from Asia? As for me, I personally think there will be no shock. I think every nation will qualify as we expect, but I think there will be a surprise in the sense that I think we might see Japan might miss. I think Japan is the most likely of the 5 nations, I would say. 6 nations to miss, I think. So yeah, man, that's gonna be it for today, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, guys. And remember, guys, to support the channel any way, shape, form you can. Remember, guys, subscribing also helps. Like, comment, turn the notifications on. Do any of those 4 or do all 4 of those. That will be greatly appreciated. Remember, guys, check out me and my other platforms. List description below, guys. And I'll see you guys later. Peace out.